Hello, I'm Juliette Mann. Welcome to Global Business Europe. Our top stories. US stocks are higher as a tame inflation report eases fears of an interest rate hike. Cleared for takeoff. China's C919 makes its international debut as Comac eyes global growth. Turbulence at TUI. The travel giant reports falling profits due to the Iran war. And how a rare celestial spectacle could offer a multi-million-dollar boost for Spain's economy. A little more breathing room for US consumers. Inflation eased to 3.4% in July. Despite the conflict in the Middle East disrupting energy supplies, petrol prices have fallen for a second month straight. Mitch McGann is in New York. Great to see you, Mitch. So, a little bit more breathing space. I mean, if we have a look at those numbers, they were in line with Wall Street's expectation. What does this mean for the Fed's September meeting?
Yeah, good afternoon from New York, Juliette. Well, look, it means that the Fed may be more comfortable leaving the current monetary settings where they are, hoping that inflation is going to cool without any intervention from the Fed. Now, keep in mind, at the last Federal Reserve meeting, 3 of the governors had pushed for a rate hike in the hope that it would deal a blow to rising inflation. The figures out this morning show that inflation came in at 3.4%, down 0.1% from the previous month, as you mentioned. Core inflation, which excludes food and energy prices, rose 2.5% year on year as well, which is slightly lower than what was forecast. If we look at the changes in consumer prices during this reported period, as you mentioned, gas prices were down, but they have actually come back up since this reporting period. Interestingly, they are still 25% higher than a year ago. Of course, that has political implications as well for the president. Shelter costs rose a little. Rent and home ownership costs were up as well. And car insurance prices declined. So some good news there. As I said, I think this will encourage the Fed to hold rates steady. Now, we often look at the CME Market Watch tool, which looks at the likelihood of any change in monetary policy. It says there is a 61.9% chance that they will keep the settings where they are, but it's not in the 90s. Previous months, when we've come up to Federal Reserve meetings, the CME Market Watch tool has been relatively certain about where things are headed. So usually they're in the 90s. It's around 60% at the moment, so certainly not a done deal yet.
Let's talk about oil, Mitch, because oil prices are steady even as Trump and Iran declare control over the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, this is really interesting and really possibly not what some analysts had predicted. We heard last Tuesday, Wednesday from both Scott Bessent and Donald Trump talking about the likelihood of a deal, an imminent deal. We were sort of expecting after the comments that they made to the media. That hasn't happened yet, but as you say, oil prices have not skyrocketed. When I last looked a few moments ago, a price of Brent crude per barrel was about $88.80. So that is lower than what it was at sort of the high point of this war a couple of months ago. Perhaps investors or traders had already priced in the fact that they didn't think this was going to result in a deal. But we are seeing the markets here, the broader markets, up today as a result of that inflation report this morning. So it's going to be interesting watching that oil price in the coming hours as Donald Trump says the US has full control over the Strait of Hormuz, something obviously that the Iranians deny.
How about Tesla? Let's talk about this, Mitch. They've had to recall 20,000 cars, but at the same time, we've got all of these rumours swirling about a SpaceX takeover.
Yeah, Elon Musk just can't stay out of the headlines, can he? Tesla is recalling 20,349 of its cars, Juliette, affecting both the Model 3 and Model Y Teslas. America's Highway Traffic Safety Administration says it's in relation to headlights that could be too bright and they could raise the risk of reducing visibility for oncoming drivers, obviously raising the risk of a crash. Now, this is more bad news for the company because it was only a couple of weeks ago the same Traffic Safety Administration said it was investing investigating 1.2 million Teslas over reports of suspension failures. Now, Tesla is down 17.6% in the last month and 2.36% today on the back of this news. And as you say, this comes at a time when it's rumoured that Elon Musk might want to combine SpaceX and Tesla, possibly creating a conglomerate valued at around $4 trillion. Now, this has been rumoured for a while, so we're going to have to see what happens in the coming months and whether Elon Musk makes any comment about this.
Well, it's one way to push up the valuation and to push up his pay packet. This began in New York. Thank you. China's COMAC C919 passenger jet has made its first international commercial flight. The Air China service connects Beijing with Mongolia's capital, Ulaanbaatar. Our correspondent Yu Yang reports.
The launch marks a major milestone for the C919 as it becomes the first regular international commercial passenger route operated by the aircraft.
It's wonderful, so nice. Everything is good and facilities is very nice.
I'm really excited. I heard it's the first time international flight of this CA723, right? Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm with my family, everybody's here, so it's gonna be fun. Yeah.
Landing at the airport in Ulaanbaatar, the plane received a water salute, a tribute of respect and honor used to celebrate achievements and milestones in the aviation industry. Representatives from the Chinese embassy in Mongolia, as well as officials from Mongolia's transport and aviation sectors, also came to the airport to welcome the arrival of the C919.
This is indeed the first time for the C919 to fly an international route. As the captain operating it, I feel very proud. We have chosen the most skilled pilots in our fleet to carry out the maiden flight work, and we have made careful preparations to make sure the flight will be operated successfully.
The C919, manufactured by the Commercial Aircraft Corporation of China, or COMAC, made its first commercial flight on May 28, 2023. Since entering service, the aircraft has steadily expanded its operations across China. As of 2026, all three major Chinese airlines, including China Eastern Airlines, Air China and China Southern Airlines, operate the C919. Over the past 3 years, the aircraft has safely carried more than 7.5 million passenger trips, serving routes between more than 20 cities.
I believe from domestic routes to regional and international routes, the expansion of China's domestically made aircraft came from the full effort of our civil aviation personnel. As a pilot, I also feel the great responsibility on my shoulders of flying our C919, well as part of routine work in the future.
Experts say the choice of Ulaanbaatar as the C919's first regular international destination reflects the combination of factors, including long-standing aviation cooperation between China and Mongolia and existing arrangements for airworthiness certification. And they believe the new route will also help establish the C919's overseas support capabilities, including maintenance cooperation, spare parts arrangements and international operating procedures. These capabilities will be crucial as the C919 expands beyond the Chinese market, and the new route is expected to lay a solid foundation for the aircraft's future development in international markets. Yu Yang, CGTN, Beijing.
Anita Mendriata is an aviation advisor, and it's a delight to have you back on Global Business Europe. Welcome. Anita, how big a moment is this first international flight for China's aviation ambitions?
Juliet, thank you very much for having me back. And if I think of you and I speaking last when I was at the IATA AGM, it's incredibly exciting, and incredibly exciting for China, but also for global aviation. The importance of this isn't just it reaching out internationally. It's the fact that COMAC, which has been part of the conversation for several years, is now part of the supply chain when it comes to aircraft. So this is a statement not only about Chinese aviation, but Chinese identity when it comes to aviation technology, and putting an opportunity now for global airlines to actually start purchasing, knowing they've had huge pressure on their deliveries from both Boeing and Airbus. So it's a significant moment for the entire aviation community and a proud one for China.
Well, we talked to China Airbus not long ago. They talked about how they're going to be building more A320s in China. That's to capture, to capture the same market that Comac is chasing. Is Comac actually competing with Airbus or with itself?
It's competing in a way, but importantly, the aviation market and supply has been very, very limited. So this is very good because it actually complements what Boeing and Airbus are already providing. Still, it's not at scale. It's just in its early points, and it's only with Chinese regulatory approval. But what's critical about your question, Juliet, is that when we look at Airbus and Boeing and Comac, they all rely on the same supply chains, which are outside of China, the most critical being engines and avionics. And we know that Boeing and Airbus have been held back significantly on their production rates because of issues with the engines and avionics, as is the case with Comac, because about 20 to 30% of Comac's parts are actually beyond Chinese borders. So it's not all produced in-house and all the materials in-house. So it's a good thing for the duopoly, and it's a good thing for global aviation because they're simply in undersupply at a time when global trade and travel are surging.
But you touched on supply chains there. I want to know a little bit more. I mean, what is Comac's delivery status? Because we've seen some of those supply chain squeezes, haven't we, over tariffs?
We have indeed. And it's been, quite honestly, the supply chain for Comac is tiny. They've only just started. Importantly as well, when we look at the actual aircraft, the C919, this competes with Boeing 737 MAX and the Neos on the Airbus side. So it's very much future technology of aviation. It's lower emissions, much lighter, and that's where it's a good thing when it comes to sustainable aviation. But as you're saying, there have been constraints and issues around supply chains. But again, Comac is only at the starting point of deliveries. They've only had 3 to 5 aircraft actually delivered to their Chinese customers. So it's really creeping up because from a regulatory perspective, quality and safety will not be compromised. Everything must be absolutely certain in terms of the quality of production and by implication, the people who are actually flying as well. So this is a slow process, and this is only within Chinese regulatory environments as well. There's no indication as to when European and American regulatory approval will even start as a process. And until that happens, the order simply won't come through, especially beyond China.
You talked a little bit about what this aircraft has to offer, but what is actually going to get an airline to pick a C919 over the Boeing 737, over the Airbus Neo? Oh, well, that's a shame. We've lost Anita, but some really interesting insights there on that inaugural passenger international flight from the Comac 919. Well, Chinese tech giant Tencent spent $7.8 billion on AI infrastructure in the second quarter, 65% more than in the previous 3 months. Revenue rose 11%, led by gaming and advertising, but profits barely moved, up less than 1% and below expectations. Tencent shares are down 26% this year as competition heats up in China's tech sector. Europe's largest energy grid operator, E.ON, has kept their 2026 profit target unchanged at $11 billion or less. Now, this is despite robust first-half profits boosted by municipal and industrial clients. Some hoped those results would help push up the full-year target. As a result, the share price slid a little in afternoon trade. Shares in Vestas Wind Systems jumped nearly 19% after the Danish company reported stronger second quarter earnings and an improved profit guidance. The world's largest supplier of wind turbines, they also announced a share buyback worth more than $460 million. Orders rose by more than $1.1 billion in value in the second quarter compared with the same period last year. Norway's sovereign wealth fund made over $184 billion in profits in the first half of the year. The $2.3 trillion fund, the world's largest, says its record profits were largely due to tech investments. Set up in the 1990s, it invests revenue from Norway's oil and gas industry. This is Global Business Europe. Still ahead. TUI profits take a nosedive as war and cautious consumers reshape holiday demand.
Everything is a business story.
Welcome back to Global Business Europe with me, Juliet Mann. The headlines. US stocks are higher as a tame inflation report eases fears of an interest rate hike. And cleared for takeoff, China's C919 makes its international debut as COMAC eyes global growth. Drought is putting India's rice farmers under growing pressure. In Telangana, they're adapting how they farm to make every drop of water count. Our correspondent Ravinder Bauer reports.
For generations, Sudarshan and his family have cultivated rice in the southern Indian state of Telangana. This year, he has made a shift from paddy to millet as warnings of low monsoon came early. The government urged farmers to move away from water-intensive rice to short-duration and drought-tolerant varieties.
We attended a government session on sowing crops like millet for better understanding. They explained how it works and how it should be done. We decided to give it a try.
As a part of contingency plan, the government reached out to farmers, informing them about effects of El Nino, the natural Pacific weather pattern that raises global temperatures, the status of reservoir storage and water availability was made public to help farmers make informed decisions.
We are discussing with the scientists.
We are discussing with scientists on which crops are suitable for managing the impacts of El Nino. We are encouraging farmers to sow these crops.
Not just now, but in the coming years, people will shift from rice to millet. They will start cultivating sorghum and pulses. We are also creating awareness.
But for farmers like M. Ganesh, the advice was not enough to make a switch. Unlike paddy, many of the alternative crops do not come with the assured government support price, making it a difficult choice.
If we cultivate green gram, sorghum or maize, there is no subsidy. So far, the government has not provided us with any support.
The solution is with these tribal women farmers known as seed protectors. Over the years, they have saved about 100 varieties of seeds. In this year of El Nino, they are playing the role of mentor and guides to those farmers who are willing to diversify and grow climate-resistant crops.
I helped about 20 people. I gave them seeds and taught them how to save and protect their seeds.
Since 2023, the government has actively promoted millets as a superfood, driving growing demand for the grain across urban India. Female farmers like these are increasingly turning to millets as a sustainable alternative to water-intensive crops such as rice. According to the World Food Programme, a powerful El Nino could push nearly about 49 million people across vulnerable regions of the world to food insecurity by next year. The contingency plans rolled out by India are not just to address the farmers' risk of crop losses, but also to ensure India's food security. Ravinder Bauer, CGTN, Telangana.
Germany's travel giant TUI says its disappointing third-quarter results are due to the war in the Middle East and changing customer behaviour. Here's Catherine Drew with all the details. Catherine.
Thanks, Juliet. Yes, TUI says pre-tax profit fell 43% compared to the same quarter last year to $177 million. It says the conflict between Iran and the US pushed up jet fuel prices, disrupted flight routes and dented travel confidence. Now, the company says the Middle East conflict and Hurricane Melissa in Jamaica caused a combined financial hit of $93 million in the 9 months to June. Now, that includes $23 million to its cruise division. Now, for the 3 months to June, earnings fell 27% to $270 million, while customer numbers dropped 3%. Now, there are signs of stronger demand ahead. Bookings rose 7% over the past month, with Greece, Turkey and Spain among the most popular destinations. Sebastian Eibel said 2026 is no ordinary year, with geopolitical tensions, inflation and economic weakness prompting European customers to make travel decisions later than usual. TUI cut its profit forecast and suspended its revenue guidance in March. Now it has confirmed that outlook, targeting full-year profit of between $1.3 and $1.6 billion. Well, let's bring in travel broadcaster and commentator Simon Calder. Simon, thanks for joining us, and it looks like you're in a beautiful location as well. So what is your outlook for TUI? Do you think they can make up these disappointing numbers?
Yes, and talking to Sebastian Eibel, the chief executive, earlier today, I got the sense that they believe that they are in a very strong position, not least actually because of cruise. You mentioned the fact that they'd lost quite significantly. That was due to having a couple of ships trapped behind the blockade of the Gulf of Hormuz, the Strait of Hormuz, but since then, he says that it's been extraordinary how much demand there is for cruising. The company is building new ships as fast as the shipyards can get them. He said they're all sailing full, and that basically the company is in a fairly strong position. But it's just another example of just how vulnerable the travel industry is to geopolitics. Of course, all kinds of businesses, particularly airlines and indeed hotels in the Gulf region, are suffering very badly as a result of the conflict in the Middle East.
So they're trying to offset these risks, of course, but it's not just the conflict. There's extreme weather, there's wildfires, the jet fuel prices, of course, have rocketed. How do you think these travel giants can navigate, as they look ahead? Are they looking at new destinations?
Well, that's a really interesting question, and there isn't actually a huge amount of movement so far towards perhaps cooler destinations, but I think that these things are all cumulative, and if Europe gets used to extremely hot summers just becoming regular events to the point where your Mediterranean beach vacation simply doesn't feel like a proper break, or indeed you're worried about the wildfires that seem to be heading over the hills, then people, I think, will choose perhaps destinations on the Baltic Sea because, of course, that is going to be very significantly cooler with much lower risk of wildfires. And so I think that change will happen in time. But on the other hand, you will still find people who can think of nothing better than in the height of summer being somewhere like Dubai or southern Egypt, where the temperatures are regularly going to be well over 40 Celsius.
Well, Simon, you have voted with your feet. I understand you're in Spain, of course, for the solar eclipse. Is that proving to be a boost for local businesses?
Absolutely huge. The Spanish authorities estimate that an extra 500,000 people are travelling to Spain in order to view the eclipse. Now, some of those will be on the island of Mallorca, where the eclipse will reach kind of last on its trajectory. And in a sense, they would be there anyway. But I'm speaking to you from just west of Burgos in northern Spain, where there are about 300 eclipse chasers. We have all spent thousands of dollars to be here because it's a fantastic sight. I'm just looking up with my eclipse glasses at the sun. There's no sign of the partial eclipse yet, but within an hour or so we will start seeing the sun disappear, and we're beneath the line of the path of totality, pretty much on the centre line. So we're hoping for a maximum duration of about 1 minute and 45 seconds, which is a very expensive amount of time, but evidently everyone here thinks it's a good investment.
Well, thank you for that safety demonstration, Simon. I was going to ask you if you had your glasses. What's the atmosphere like where you are?
Everybody is hugely excited, partly because, we have got completely clear skies here. And funnily enough, of course, they study weather records before they choose a site for a proper kind of scientific expedition like this. And on this very day, a year ago, anywhere in mainland Spain was entirely within clouds, but they've all disappeared, and there's an awful lot of people who are here for their first eclipse. They say, well, it'll be the first and only one, but actually there's going to be an even better eclipse on the 2nd of August next year. So if you're in a part of the world which doesn't have an eclipse at all, or it's just partial where you are, then start planning for southern Spain, North Africa on the 2nd of August 2027. That is going to have about the longest duration of any eclipse this century, and you can be absolutely sure the travel industry will be making a fortune from it.
A date for our diary. Sarah Calder, thank you so much. Juliet, back to you.
Thank you. I've got a year to get my special glasses. Thanks, Catherine. Well, the solar eclipse could be more than just a celestial spectacle. It's also a potential boost for Spain's economy, as Catherine was talking about. The government estimates nearly 500,000 visitors have travelled to see it, bringing in roughly $400 million in extra spending. Now, many arrived early, hoping for a front-row seat to the skies. Our correspondent Edith Chanchan is in the Catalonian town of Prades.
Most certainly, and especially in this part of Spain. And I can tell you at least 3 reasons why that's happening. For one, this is an extremely rare event. This is happening for the first time in this region in over 120 years. So it's really a once-in-a-lifetime experience. That is, if you are lucky that it is taking place during your lifetime. And that's why hundreds of thousands of people have flocked from different parts of Spain and even abroad. And a second reason why it's so interesting is because normally we're used to seeing the scenes in which people are looking up to catch the total eclipse, but the timing makes this very interesting because it's going to take place less than an hour before sunset, and that means if you are in a plain field, you're not going to be looking up in the sky, but you are going to be looking directly into the solar eclipse. So this is going to create extremely interesting visuals combined with the landscape. And the third reason, of course, as we've just heard, this is the time of hottest temperatures in Spain, as well as historic wildfires. But, you know, while the tourism has been dampened in other parts of Spain, that is not the case here. In fact, in the vicinity, anywhere from 2-3 hours of drive from where we are, there's not a single hotel room is available. That's why there's so much interest and anticipation. And in fact, in places like Prades, where we are right now, they've actually turned this into a 4-day international festival.
The headlines again. US stocks are higher as a tame inflation report eases fears of an interest rate hike. Cleared for takeoff. China's C919 makes its international debut as Comac eyes global growth. And turbulence at TUI. The travel giant reports falling profits due to the Iran war. And that is it for Global Business Europe. Thanks for watching. There's more on all of our stories at europe.cgtn.com, and do follow CGTN Europe on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. And you can go to CGTN Europe's channel on the Telegram app or scan the QR code on the screen to get stories and updates sent direct to your phone. Coming up next on CGTN, it's Africa Live. We'll see you again tomorrow, same time, same place. From all the team here in London, goodbye.